Good morning. We're back. We are back and better than Alright, you guys. Hello, good morning. The routine has now begun. We are back in it. We will be taking a little bit of a few days a break from the Quran, and while we're at it, we'll go ahead and read our next part of 2nd Chronicles. I have transcribed for you, but we're back. I'm not going to engage into so much chit-chat about the events that had taken as we are going through our topics a little bit later. I'll be happy to expound. Good news is we're safe, everybody's good. Just had a little change up in our routine. Let's go ahead and continue here with part 7 of 2nd Chronicles. And I know it's been a little bit, so where we left off was Judah, right? They're having their issues, even became opposition and opponents to one another. Except for through the last king, as we know, that was Jehoshaphat. Jehoshaphat had married into the kingdom of Israel, so it built up a little bit of an alliance between them where there was no war between them. Of course, there's still going to be disagreements and troubles coming with that, but it did build up this alliance with Israel and Jerusalem. So we'll see that carried out here through these next two kings that we talk about. We have Jehoram, Jehoshaphat's son, and then we have Joash, Jehoram's son. And we're going to go ahead and discuss how those two characters carried out the line of Judah. And as we know, they are combining themselves also with Israel in a way. Just, we can think of them as allies. But let's go ahead and just start out with a quote so we can get a little bit of the mood involved here. We have here, "To the man in the street, who I'm sorry to say, is a keen observer of life. The word intellectual suggests straight away a man who's untrue to his wife." And this is from part 4, 1939 to 1947, shorts by Auden or Auden. And we all know what this implies, right? This implies a very smart and intellectual, right? An intellectual man who is also untrue to his wife. And Auden is suggesting that those two things go hand in hand just because of his worldliness and his boisterousness and his socialization. That's proved him to be an intellectual. It also allows him to be, out there when it comes to meeting women. So we can draw parallels. We're not going to talk about any infidelity between husband and wife, but what we will be discussing is the infidelity really between gods and other gods, because this is exactly what is going on, and this is what was exactly causing the problems between Israel and God himself. Was their lack of faithfulness, was their lack of not sticking to him and trusting him throughout everything. So that was causing a lot of the issues. And these kings, right, they thought of themselves as, we can say, instead of intellectuals, they thought of themselves as diplomats, right? They're building an alliance. They think what they're doing is the right thing, is the good thing to combine. And maybe if they went about it the right way, with Judah's intellect, if you will, combining with Israel, and Judah kind of overtaking Israel in the sense that they are staying true to God, maybe it would have worked. But that was not what was happening. We had Israel's influence on Judah. And as we remember, lots of people, the people of Israel, moved into nations and places where they were not practicing monogamy. Whatever, the one God. I don't know why I'm blanking on that word. 1 second. They were not practicing monotheism. That's it. So they had all these other practices, and the people there had all these other practices even before Israel was involved. So Israel took up their customs, and Israel actually influenced Judah in that way versus the other way around, unfortunately. that is how that went. So let's go ahead and begin here. Hey, baby, do you want me to go outside or something? Okay. Alright. We've got a little kitten here. Let's begin. Back into the routine, ladies and gentlemen. Chapter 21 reads, Then Jehoshaphat rested with his ancestors and was buried with them in the city of David. And Jehoram his son succeeded him as king. He followed the ways of the kings of Israel, as the house of Ahab had done, for he married the daughter of Ahab. And he did evil in the eyes of the Lord. Nevertheless, because of the covenant the Lord had made with David, the Lord was not willing to destroy the house of David. He had promised to maintain a lamp for him and his descendants forever. So through this, even through the infidelity that was taking place, he still wanted to, keep the line living and alive. For obvious reasons that we know now, that line of David is very important. But that doesn't mean he's going to not enact judgment completely. So the Lord still aroused anger against Jehoram, the hostility of the Philistines and of the Arabs who lived near the Cushites. Against Jehoram. I should say through the hostility. Okay, they attacked Judah, invaded it, and carried off all the goods found in the king's palace, together with his sons and his wives. Not a son was left to him except Ahaziah, the youngest. Jehoram was 32 years old when he became king, and he reigned in Jerusalem 8 years. He passed away to no one's regret, and was buried in the city of David, but not in the tombs of the kings. So this speaks a little bit about the kind of king Jehoram was, okay? It obviously says he did evil in the eyes of the Lord, but he was not a glorified king, okay? There was a lot of issues with the way that he ruled the people, and the way that he was, taking up his kingship was not ethical. So it says here no one had any regrets to his death, and he was not even buried in the tombs of the kings. Says here, Ahaziah was 22 years old when he became king, and he reigned in Jerusalem 1 year. His mother's name was Ahaziah, great-granddaughter of Omri. And I do apologize, I spoke as Joash being Jehoram's son, but this was after we had the last one, Jehoshaphat, Jehoram, and then Ahaziah, and then Joash was Ahaziah's son. So there's actually really 3 that we're covering here, just briefly. Okay. Anyways, Jehoram was 32 years old when he became king. He passed away. Ahaziah was 22 years old when he became king, and reigned in Jerusalem 1 year. His mother's name was Ahaziah, great-granddaughter of Omri. He too followed the ways of the house of Ahab, for his mother encouraged him to act wickedly. Through Ahaziah's visit to Joram, God brought about Ahaziah's downfall. When Ahaziah arrived, he went out with Joram to meet Jehu, son of Nimshi, whom the Lord had anointed to destroy the house of Ahab. But Jehosheba, daughter of the king Jehoram, took Joash, son of Ahaziah, stole him away from among the royal princes, who were about to be murdered, and put him and his nurse in a bedroom. He remained hidden with them at the temple of God for 6 years, while Ahaziah's mother, ruled the land. The Levites are to station around the king, each with a weapon in hand. Anyone who enters the temple is to be put to death. Stay close to the king wherever he goes. Okay, so this is interesting, and I think this is why I got a little bit confused, because both kings, they lost all of their children. They lost all of their sons except for one, right? There's always that one. And it's like we can say, yes, they were chosen, but even as they were raised up to be kings, they didn't do any good by the Lord. So maybe that's a little bit of, free will involved, right? Maybe they could have gone the right path, but they decided not to. They were influenced not to. But of course, God already knows what path you're going to take. He knows we have options, right? But he does have awareness of what is the outcome at the end of it. So he did save their lives. He did at least leave one to carry out the line. But that doesn't necessarily mean that they were great and good in the eyes of the Lord. But everybody has a purpose, right? Everybody plays their role as they are to perform, you know? Anyways, let's go on here. Daughter of the king stole him away. Okay, so it's this little baby, and he's remaining at the temple. And then we have Jehoiada, who is the priest of this time in Judah. He made a covenant that he and the people and the king would be the Lord's people. All the people went to the temple of Baal and tore it down. They smashed the altars and idols and killed Matan, the priest of Baal, in front of the altars. Okay, so in this instance here, Jehoiada, the priest who was watching over the temple where the little king was, he actually took up a lot of power during the king's youth. He took up a lot of power, and he was ordering people around like the king would. We also have the queen, Ahaziah, at this time, and she was also ordering people around, and they were in opposition. They were kind of opposites, because Jehoiada wanted to go by the way of God, and then the queen, Ahaziah, she wanted to do, what Ahab and Israel was doing. So Jehoiada ends up killing off the queen, and he makes this covenant to raise the people up in the way of the Lord, and the king in the way of the Lord. And it says here, Joash was 7 years old when he became king, and he reigned in Jerusalem 40 years. His mother's name was Zibiah, and she was from Beersheba. Now the sons of that wicked woman Athaliah had broken into the temple of God, and had used even its sacred objects for the Baals. The men in charge of the work, we'll stop there for a second. So Athaliah was ordering people around. They end up killing her, and that for this reason specifically. And the priests did order men to go ahead and rebuild the temple. So that's where we are. The men in charge of the work were diligent, and the repairs progressed under them. They rebuilt the temple of God according to its original design and reinforced it. Eventually, after the death of Jehoiada, the priest, the officials of Judah came and paid homage to the king, and he listened to them. But they abandoned the temple of the Lord, the God of their ancestors, and worshipped Asherah poles and idols. Because of their guilt, God's anger came on Judah and Jerusalem. On the account of Joash's sons, the many prophecies about him and the record of the restoration of the temple of God are written in the annotations on the book of the Kings. And Ahaziah, his son, succeeded him as king. Okay, so we have a lot going on, just back to back. I'm sure as we were reading 1st and 2nd Kings, we do remember this line. I think we talked about, it was just bad after bad after bad. This is what that was, and we remember these little conflicts that took place between Jehoiada the priest and him killing the queen, and this young king ruling. It's a lot of effort and a lot of motion put into this time that really produced no fruit. There was no loyalty to the Lord. As much as the covenants were made, once the priest had died, they just go back to their old ways. So it's shown, right? We do have that sense of free will, and we're going to choose what we're going to choose. God cannot control your thought or your mind. He has knowledge of it. He has full range of understanding of it because he created it. But he cannot make the decision for you. That is the free will concept. So the choices are going to be the choices are, and the wonder and the beauty of how God works is he can work around all of our free will choices, right? We have many different things to choose from. Sometimes it's just choosing between this way or that way, a lot of times. And he works around and creates the purpose, right? The purpose and the path through all of our decisions, whether they be good or bad, or whether they please him or not. His will always, always succeed and be done. As we see. Who is that? She, hold on. You hear her? Hey, come here. She's jumping up on the screen like no problem. Goodness gracious. So, as you can see, we're back into routine. Everything is going crazy once again. There's movement happening. So let us make good decisions to carry out our week and our day. I hope everybody is doing well, and I'll talk to you again very, very soon. All right, have a good rest of your day. Bye-bye.